Hello, I'm Lisa Namaskaram, and welcome to this week's Saturday Sit. We're talking today about confidence, and our last couple of sessions, we've been focusing on the installation of a stillness practice and how important that is and why it's important. We've talked about what meditation is, what it's not, and each week we talk about also just what we're going to focus on in terms of the overarching theme of stillness. And then the unique benefit, I often say each time I meditate, or certainly every couple of sessions, I discover something new that becomes a benefit and a good reason to install this practice. So today, both our focus and the benefit of meditation we're going to look at is confidence. So we're going to spend a little bit of time on this, and I really want to convey and explain, if you've never really thought about confidence as a trait, what it is, why we seek it, how we can cultivate it, especially in our practice, and how that looks when we're able to really successfully do that. So first, and before we get into the actual session, I want to just help us all bring to mind, when we hear the word confidence, what do we think of? What image, what maybe personality or group of people? We've all been around confident people. We sort of know what that looks like. So bring that to mind. And as we do, think about a confident person we tend to think of as someone who can handle everything, or people who don't get ruffled. They seem to kind of know it all, even though, as we'll talk about, maybe they don't know it all. And why that's kind of desirable. And when we look at the word confidence, it comes from the Latin root confidere or fidere. The C-O-N, of course, means with, but the fidere part means trust. And that was fascinating to me. I learned this several years ago. And it's fascinating to me because what I would share, and the important thing that I would love to land for everyone listening, is that confidence itself, what that means literally is a trust in ourselves, a self-trust, a self-reliance, if you will. So the people that are confident, they don't know everything. When we're building self-trust, we feel less robust in our sort of in our toolbox or factual knowledge and things like that. It's not about thinking that we know it all or we have everything that we need. It's more about believing and knowing from experience, because we've acted this out. It's more about knowing that we'll show up in a way that's fairly effective and reasonable. And the more we practice and engage in activities that help us learn to trust ourselves, the more this grows. And I will share that arrogance is sort of a self-trust, but it lacks authenticity. In other words, we can feel the difference between confidence and arrogance. It's an energetic field. It's not something that someone has to say a lot or do a lot, but we notice if someone is coming to a space with a lot of, I've got this and I can do it, that's great. But if they haven't put in the work, or they don't actually know what the topic is, or maybe they are trying to project or exude confidence, but maybe they're scared to death underneath, like I am a lot of the time when I'm doing different presentations and things. But what we learn as we practice is that we are reliable. So we're going to really explore this during our meditation session. And what I would also share is that as we install a stillness practice, what we actually are doing is we're retraining our brains and ourselves to understand that when we say we are going to do something, we do it, that we're reliable. And it can be dozens, or if not, hundreds of times that we say we're going to sit down and meditate. Frequency over duration. And the meditation is just one way that this shows up. But if we think about, we tend to really keep our word. We tend to be very trustworthy when it comes to others. If we say, I will meet you for coffee at 10 o'clock on Friday, I'm likely to show up. If I say I can be counted on to create this summary and present it to the group, I am going to show up with that summary. What we don't tend to do, and the work in progress in our work together, is we don't tend to hold ourselves to that same standard when it comes to our own behavior. So if it's not related to another person, we're looser with it. So for example, it might show up as, I'm going to meditate for 5 minutes today, and today comes and goes and I don't do it. Or I am not going to be late to this particular event, and then turns out you're late to it, particularly if it's just something for yourself. Or it might be, I'm going to spend less money. I want to decrease my consumption of everything, and I'm going to spend less money. And then, halfway through the day or halfway through the evening, we're there on, Amazon or, any kind of online shopping, we're spending money. So you get the idea. So as we go into the session, what I really want to invite you to do is to allow the truth of what breaking your word looks like to yourself. Allow the truth of that experience to arise. It's really scary if you haven't done it, and no one wants to admit that we break our word to ourselves. But what I will share is that repeated breaking of our word to ourselves, or even our intentions, it could be unspoken. If we repeatedly do that, we're learning that we're not trustworthy to ourselves. And the reason that matters, for obvious reasons, I would hope, but the number one reason that we're focused on today is because when we break our word to ourselves, we do not have confidence. We do not have a sort of deeply rooted, fundamentally cultivated experience that we are reliable. And when we do not have that, others can smell our fear a mile away. And we don't want to be fearful. We want to feel trustworthy. And that is both our focus today and also the benefit of meditation that we're really looking at. So moving now into the meditation itself, just reminding everyone that there's no wrong way to meditate. So come as you are. We're not judging ourselves. We're not using this as an opportunity to be critical. We're just gifting ourselves a few moments today as we wrap up another busy week, as we move into what might be a 3-day holiday weekend for some folks. This is a gift we're giving ourselves. So we just want to show up, full stop. And the other thing is just always to remember, we're not trying to get anywhere. We're not running away. We're not escaping. We're not going to our happy place. We're actually learning as we meditate to come home. We're learning to land. We're learning to be where we are and to stay. So as we do this, we're going to have a nice straight spine, a nice long neck. We can tilt our head up just a little bit. If you're in a chair, which is totally fine, just keep that nice straight back. Make sure that your knees and hips are at the same level, so you're not pulling on your lower back. If you are so inspired, I hope that you've taken a moment to personalize your space, either with flowers or candles or incense or whatever makes this space feel like you. We want to feel welcomed when we show up for ourselves. And even though you might not have that created in advance of our session this morning, it's certainly something that you can think about as we depart in a little bit. So I will lead us through several cycles of breathing. We do this in a very short, condensed way to give you the instruction in case you're new to the practice, which I love, always love the opportunity to connect with someone just learning the practice. But we want to give you, provide enough structure so that you can then, do this on your own. And just sharing that note of like, even a minute a day, if you set it up at the same time, the same place, and you start showing up for yourself, guess what? You're a meditator. So as we do the first couple cycles of breathing, I'll hold the count for us. It'll be 6 counts on the in breath, 7 counts on the out breath, and we're going to rest at the end of that 7th count, which I'll identify for us. As we continue through a few cycles, I'll pull back some of the support and allow us to continue breathing at our own comfortable pace. Again, not judging ourselves and just really experiencing what it's like to show up for ourselves, as ourselves. And after a few cycles of just independent breathing, I'll take us through a little bit of an exploration as we look at confidence and think about what that means. So I'm going to go ahead and begin the session with a yogic chant that's in Sanskrit, just inviting light and truth and immortality into our space. I also end the session with that invocation, and that will be your signal both that we're starting and that we're ending the session. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to take a couple of deep breaths as we begin. Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Trudman Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Starting with the first in-breath. The count is 6, and let's begin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and rest. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and rest. Breathing in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathing out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and rest. Breathing in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathing out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and rest. In breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Out breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and hold. In breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Out breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Resting. In breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Out breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. In breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Out breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. In breath. Out breath. 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 Continue our breathing in a way that's comfortable. If you notice the mind wandering, just come back. Focus on your counting. Focus on your breath. Nowhere to go, nothing to fix, just breathing. Continuing your breathing at a comfortable pace, bring to mind your relationship with yourself. What does the trust factor look like? Bring to mind a big occasion or a very small commitment to yourself that you may have broken recently. Perhaps, especially if it was a small thing, like I will exercise today and I didn't. Perhaps you let yourself off the hook. Self-compassion is important. What are the small ways that we let ourselves off the hook? And could those times be eroding our self-trust? Is there a gap in a confidence? The gap may be small when it comes to others, but is it bigger when it comes to ourselves? How did it feel to let yourself down? Now bringing to mind a time that you kept your word to yourself, that your intentions were upheld. Perhaps you committed to running a marathon and you trained for that race. Perhaps you were trying to speak less and listen more, or cultivate gratitude and say thank you for things that you don't normally say thank you for. Maybe there was something in your professional life that allowed you to show up and shine. How did that feel? Let's just rest in how it feels to keep our word to ourselves. We might notice that when we feel an increased sense of reliance on ourselves, that our sense of fear about the world, about our responses, about others decreases as we learn to sit in the trust of ourselves. We learn to let go of any fear, not because we're perfect, but because we trust ourselves to show up in the best way that we can, and we know that that is enough. As we're breathing in this infinite trust with the in-breath, that we've got this because we have put in the work, because we regularly practice doing as we say we will do. We notice this inverse relationship between self-trust, also known as confidence, and fear. Our self-trust goes up, our fear goes down. And bringing to mind for just a moment a time that you felt fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of change, fear of something unexpected, like a technical glitch in a live presentation. And imagine how less fearful that can be when the work has been done, when we have practiced sitting still, showing up for ourselves again and again and again. Confidence goes up, fear goes down. And as we continue our breathing for this last moment or two, allow your imagination to take you to a place of being unbreakable with your self-commitments. What would it be like if everything we set out to do, we showed up for it? Not that we were able to do it, but we showed up for. What would it be like if we kept our word within ourselves 100% of the time? It may bring a smile to your face. It may make you have a stomach ache. Self-trust is a freedom. We cultivate that freedom and build that trust through various activities, and especially through meditation. Asato ma sagamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya vichorma ritangamaya Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Namaskaram. I hope that this is giving you some things to think about when it comes to confidence. And I'm going to go ahead and move now just into some ways that you can get engaged with these meditations and other work that we're doing. From a scheduling perspective, I will share that next Saturday, the 22nd of February, there will be no sit. If you are so inspired and you want to access a previous recording of one of our former sessions, you can access that in my LinkedIn profile or DM me or email me, and I'm happy to hook you up with some of those. This will be our final sit then for the month of February because it is a short month. We'll be right back here on March 1st. And in the month of March, we're going to move from focusing on an installation of a stillness practice to exploring a concept called equanimity. You may be familiar with this and want to learn more about it, or it may be a completely new word, as I like to say, equa what. It was a new word for me a long time ago and something that's worth our time and attention. So we're going to go through 3 or 4 sessions of equanimity focus in March. So we'll see you right back here. Another way that you can get engaged is to check out our Scars to Medals online healing community. This is a place where folks who have some challenge of any kind are coming together to empower ourselves to turn our pain into strength. Thus the name Scars to Medals. And you can find us at scarstomedals.com. We'll share that link in the comments, along with a couple other helpful links. But that is a place that we're building. And at the moment, there is no restriction on the number of members, nor is there a cost involved to join the subscription-based community at the moment. So it's a great time to check it out. I have written a book as well, the first in a 3-book series. It's called The Healing Path, Part 1, Stay Present. So if you have enjoyed this session and want to learn more about installing a stillness practice, you can check out my book. We'll put that in the chat as well. The Healing Path, Part 1, Stay Present. And additionally, we'll be sharing a link to a PDF, which we've put together to give you some very hands-on steps to installing your own practice. As I always say, frequency over duration. Make it so easy you can't fail. A tip I got from James Clear in his great book, Atomic Habits. And finally, if you are so inspired, we do have a newsletter that we're enjoying and also getting some great feedback on through LinkedIn. It's called Stepping Stones. You can go ahead and subscribe to that under my profile, or again, DM me or email me at info@lisamcfarland.com to gain more information on that. So that is all we have today on self-confidence. And I would just share that in these sessions, one of the underpinning foundational goals that I have for getting us together is to start to understand and open to this concept that when we learn and build our skills, and it is a practice, it's not an end game, but when we get really good at managing our internal nature, what goes on in our mind, including what goes on in our bodies, although that is not my personal interest or area of expertise, plenty of coaches out there to talk about diet and fitness and well-being of the actual body. Of course, they're fully connected, but the idea is we go through these different practices because we want to get really good at managing our internal nature so that we're not so reliant on what happens outside of us for things like joy and peace and calm abiding. We don't want to depend on external circumstances. We don't want to hope that the weather is good so we have a good day. That's a great, easy analogy. And obviously, we have all these ways that we look to our external circumstances, whether it's who we might be able to see that day, what type of activity we get engaged in, if we have a particular meal or what's on the radio. We have all these preferences and affinities, and we sometimes become reliant on them for our internal well-being. And what I'm inviting you to do, and what all of my work invites you to do, is to own your own nature, so that when things go our way, it's extra great. But when they don't, we aren't giving away our power, so that we're wasting the precious moments of our life wishing things were different than they were. So I will end there. We did go over a little bit today, and I apologize for the technical difficulties on the front end of our session. But thank you sincerely for being here, making time for yourself, and learning how to build more trust within yourself, so that you can truly feel confident in every area of your life. Namaskaram. And until next time, let's do our best to stay present, to stay grateful, and to stay healing.